Tim's News Explosion. 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 Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of Tim's News Explosion, the weekly news show where I untwist the established narrative of the week in the mainstream media in a fast-paced 30-minute digest every Monday evening. Today is the 17th of May, 2021. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, live as always on the Wilmsfront channels on YouTube and DLive, and of course it'll be uploaded to Odyssey and Entropy afterwards. Hello to everyone in the live chats. I've put the Entropy link in there, so if you want to interact with the show tonight, ask me a direct question or a super chat, you can do so in the link below. Also, all right, let's first get the latest on what we know on the end of last week's breaking developing story. I first spoke about it on Trad Tasman Talk with Dewey DeBoer on Friday night. That was another raiding and arrest of Thomas Sewell, leader of the National Socialist Network. His last post on Telegram was about to get raided, and we didn't hear anything since. Throughout the day, we did know that he and his right-hand man, Jacob Hershnet, were in custody. It was around about 4 or 5 p.m. that information started to filter out through the mainstream media, with a whole bunch of articles from the far right reporters in the mainstream outlets, Sean Rubenstein Dunlop of the ABC and Michael McGowan of the Guardian, and it was just in time for the 6 p.m. news, and this is how Peter Hitchner of 9 News reported on Thomas's arrest.
The head of a neo-Nazi group, Thomas Sewell, has been arrested at gunpoint in dawn counter-terror raids. Dougal Beattie's following the story. Now, Dougal, he's still being questioned by detectives?
He was picked up in a dawn raid at his home in Roval, Pete. Thomas Sewell is the head of neo-Nazi group called the Socialist Network. He is currently on bail after being charged over a violent assault on a security guard at the Channel 9 building in March. This morning, he and another 22-year-old man were arrested over an alleged violent armed robbery at the Cathedral Range State Park last Saturday afternoon. Now, during that incident, a group of men allegedly smashed the windows of a car before threatening the people inside with a knife and stealing their mobile phones. Thomas Sewell is a former member of the ADF, and he made headlines back on the Australia Day long weekend when his group burnt a cross in the Grampians and chanted Nazi slogans. Now, he is currently being questioned by counter-terror police, and no charges have been laid. Pete?
Okay, so later that evening, a lot of people weren't thinking that Tom would face a magistrate's court until Monday, that he would be remanded in custody until at least the weekend. But the ABC later updated their story here, and they decided that they would blur Thomas's face. I'm not sure what their go is there. Do they believe that Thomas is such a vile person now that it's distressing for some people to even see his face? That was quite interesting. So they repeated about the Dawn raid, and Victoria Police said the investigation followed an alleged armed robbery in the town of Tagati on Saturday. Police said Mr. Sewell faced charges of armed robbery, theft, criminal damage, affray with a face covering, affray, assault with a weapon, violent disorder, common law assault, and committing an indictable offence whilst on bail. In court documents, police allege a knife was used in the armed robbery and assault. The Melbourne Magistrates Court heard Mr. Sewell suffered an injury to his hand. During the arrest, he did not apply for bail and was remanded to appear in court on August 2. So that's interesting that it says he did not apply for bail, not that he was refused bail. Police said a 22-year-old Rowville man was released pending further inquiries. That was Jacob Hershnet, Thomas's right-hand man and, well, I guess, acting leader of the National Socialist Network and the European Australia movement. He posted an update to the NSN Telegram channel late on Friday night, but there's been no activity on any of those channels since. No further the mainstream media reports either. So, which is so obviously. Tom would be in the Melbourne Remand Centre, and we won't know much more concrete until, well, he appears next before court on August 2. Now, the initial hypothesis on how this armed robbery occurred, we do know that a known Antifa antagonizer on Twitter had posted the location of the National Socialist Network on their latest camping trip last weekend. So a lot of people suspected that some Antifa wannabe Nazi hunters had followed them there to, I guess, detail what they were doing, and then Tom confronted them and smashed their car window and took their mobile phones with a knife. But there is another alternate theory that there's a mole or a couple of moles in the National Socialist Network, and they were invited as part of the trip under suspicion, and they were confronted about their alleged treachery by Thomas in that incident there. So that's the other theory there. There's been no, as I said, no other statements from National Socialist Network or any other groups during that time. So in times of dead air, theories and rumors thrive. But certainly with Tom in custody now, or in remand, I should say, that the way that I've described it is that the NSN LARPing climax has now reached. Obviously, with Thomas out, there's no real. The only other public face is Jacob Hershnet. I don't know what he's planning to do with them, but obviously, over the past 6 months, we've seen the escalation in Tom's language, conduct, and behaviour, and obviously that Australia Day camping trip where they burnt a cross and made all those strange photos. There was clearly a climax coming, and certainly it was obvious when he punched that Afro-Caribbean security guard outside Channel 9 in March after a current affairs story on the National Socialist Network, who he alleged touched Jacob Hershnet's neck. On Friday night, we heard immediate reaction from Blair Cottrell. Tom was Blair's right-hand man in the United Patriots front. Blair was on Jared Seaby's Hard Knocks program. Blair confessed that it's been hard to see Tom's descent into this downward spiral, given that, as Blair said, he was his only friend for many years. So it's certainly, I think it's fair to conclude this has been a very sad episode in what you could say is Australian nationalist activism, because Tom was part of the nationalist community for many years. Many nationalists don't consider, quite rightly, neo-Nazis part of the Australian nationalist community. So we'll try to keep you on both these programs and on the Unshackled platforms updated if we know any further. I have got a Wilmsfront featured interview show on Thursday. I wasn't planning one, but I've got British patriot Mark Collett, founder and leader of Patriot Alternative, coming on Wilmsfront to gain his analysis on the what should happen, how the Australian nationalist movement should move on after the Thomas Sewell climax. Mark is one of the most, in my opinion, respected and experienced nationalist activists, I'd say, in the Anglo sphere. So I'm certainly looking forward to hearing what he has to say, and you'll also have his opportunity to ask him questions as well. Mark, along with Blair and myself, obviously I'm not putting myself in the same league as Mark or Blair, were trolled by a lot of the Nazi LARPers over the course of this year, because we weren't on board with what Tom was doing and wouldn't defend some of his off the wall conduct. But certainly there is a chance for some healing now. It's Thursday evening. Mark Collett will be on Wilmsfront Australian Protectionist Party. So that will be 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time, which I know you're in Perth, 6:30 Perth time. I'll provide all the links on Telegram and Gab. Now, on Saturday afternoon, there was another worldwide rally for freedom around Australia and also around the world, including here in Melbourne. Now, it didn't make the news at all. The Melbourne worldwide rally for freedom. That's because it was completely peaceful. Victoria Police let the protesters, well, they're always peaceful. It's only Victoria Police who the aggressors in these types of freedom rallies, and that's why the mainstream media didn't report it. Not just because it was peaceful, but thousands attended there. There was a fantastic vlog put together by the real Rakshan, who is a local Melburnian Sri Lankan Australian. So I'm just going to play this now and provide my commentary for it.
Yeah, and my choice, too scared to raise my voice. Keep saying that this won't happen to me, 'cause I'm free, and I am free, and I am free, and I am free, I am free.
A march there across the Melbourne promenade there. What's the flag? Different types of great flags there.
We are here today to celebrate the fact that we are free!
Gets on a week ago. And they
under the guise of never-ending emergency powers, they've suspended our parliament, declared themselves invested with the power of absolute rule over every aspect of our lives, separated our families, shut down our businesses, closed our places of worship, locked us in our homes, surveilled us with drones, and turned science into a religion not to be questioned with facts and evidence.
But what you must understand is that we still have a freedom of choice. We still have a freedom that we can exercise. And the best way that we can do that is to withdraw our consent. There's a very easy way to do this. It's a very simple word, it's only 2 letters. and that word is no.
Is COVID a scam? How is it that such a mass lie was able to propagate over the globe and take so much control?
We finally got the Fanos committee in a Melbourne freedom rally because
Your freedom of movement, your freedom of choice, and your God-inherited rights, which are being stripped away in the name of COVID-19. We are trying to warn you about the dangers that lay ahead if you continue to consent. The fact that we gather month after month, week after week, tells you how serious this really is. And guess what? We won't be giving up.
The Anzacs and our forefathers, they fought and died so that we can have the freedom that we enjoy today. And now it is our duty that we must also be ready to make the sacrifice, not just for our freedom, not just for our children's freedom, but for the future of humanity.
There we go there. Had a few people in the comments say that my voiceover or attempt at commentary wasn't the best. They couldn't hear me very much over the video, but I think, well, as Margot said, this was the first time that she is seeing this video. You need to follow The Real Rakshan on Facebook and also subscribe to him on YouTube. I had him as a guest on in the middle of last year during the second lockdown. Couldn't hear you at all, Tim. Sorry about that, Margot. But yeah, the video was more important, obviously, there. As I said, it was good to see Fanos Panayides and Anthony Khallouf there at a protest pro-freedom rally in Melbourne, given that incitement charges against them in September last year, their bail conditions prevented them from going to the CBD. It was good to see them being able to attend and speak there. And yeah, for once, Victoria Police let the protest go peacefully, because they could have still made life hell for the protesters, because there is still a public gathering limit of 200 under the state of emergency powers. I also heard that Assistant Commissioner Luke Cornelius, aka Chief Wiggum, aka Fat Bastard, didn't this time mail out any threatening letters to potential attendees saying they could get fines or incitement charges. The Real Anxious Aussie said, "Great new show, Tim. I'll no longer threaten to sue you anymore." Well, I never got the paperwork that you said you were going to send me to sue me. The Real Anxious Aussie. But yes, that was the weekend in Melbourne. We had in the Sydney Freedom Rally Craig Kelly speak, and at the Brisbane Freedom Rally George Christensen speak. Craig Kelly is proposing a private members bill in Parliament, no COVID vaccine passports, which George Christensen is going to second. Obviously, Craig Kelly is now an independent federal MP, not in the Liberal Party room, but George Christensen, although he's retiring at the next election, is still a National Party MP and part of the coalition party room there. So it'll certainly be interesting to see how that's received in the Parliament there. Now, going on to, well, some what I call political agenda fails of the week. And now I think it's safe to say that myself and all the people participating in the live chat aren't fans of Greens Senator Lydia Thorpe, who makes the most of her Aboriginal ancestry to make a victim complex. She said she even though she basically doesn't believe in Australia, she still happily sits in the Australian Senate. She believes that her $200,000 a year salary is compensation for trans generational trauma. I wonder if the other week when she was in the Qantas Chairman's Lounge, I can't believe that under the Qantas leadership of CEO Alan Joyce, who obviously is completely on board with LGBT rights, still called the Chairman's Lounge. Shouldn't it be the chairperson's chairpeople's lounge? I'm surprised about that. But Lydia Thorpe said, got an invite to the Chairman's Lounge off to Mount Isa to meet with the mob, and she has her stolen wealth shirt on there. Well, now, but she really peaked last week when, during a speech criticising the Northern Territory's tightening of youth bail laws, she said that the NT Attorney General must be a white male. Now, the Northern Territory Attorney General, Selena Ubo, is an Aboriginal woman. She's part of the Gunner Labor government. Now, despite her being a Labor Attorney General, made an excellent speech calling out Lydia Thorpe's inner city ivory tower opinion on youth justice in the Northern Territory. She said, well, I would... Selena said, well, I would never cast aspersions on inner city people in Melbourne that Lydia represents. She shouldn't on the Northern Territory either there. And I noticed after Lydia Thorpe was humiliated for assuming that because she disagreed with a policy that they must have been made by a white male. On the Bolt report that night, Andrew Bolt had Lydia Thorpe's father on, who she has criticised on her social media before at the end of last year for being a racist Pauline Hanson supporter because he is white, even though he procreated with an Aboriginal woman to create Lydia Thorpe. He's fighting pancreatic cancer, and just basically said, look, I think she's just being consumed by all this woke nonsense. I'm basically paraphrasing the entire interview there. And you know, when a father of a politician who's humiliated themselves goes on a show like Andrew Bolt to basically give his commentary, you know that he's basically had enough of Lydia's antics and victim complex there. So I wouldn't be surprised if Lydia's Green colleagues begin to call her into line there, say, wake up to yourself, stop being so hyperbolic and emotive all the time. Remember that Sarah Hanson-Young was the original triggered Greens senator, and then of course we got Maureen Faruqi, from New South Wales, Osman Faruqi's mother, constantly calling Australia racist Yeah, so she replaced Sarah Hanson-Young as the most triggered green. And then we got Lydia Thorpe. Uh, if you go back to, well, they more than 15 years ago, Bob Brown seems like a moderate, reasonable guy compared to what the Greens have become in the Australian Senate now. So a massive epic fail there by Lydia Thorpe there. Now, today is, well, there's so many different LGBT days in the calendar year. So today is the International Day Against Homophobia, Biphobia, Interphobia, Transphobia, called IDABIT Day. And now this was put out by the Australian Signals Directorate, which is our one of our defence intelligence organisations. So their part of their job is intercepting foreign signals that could be a threat to the nation. So it's good that they're making sure that they're going to hear from a trans advocate today, Catherine Woolgam, to speak about transgender inclusion, because even though we could be facing a war in the near future, and we have foreign espionage here, at least we have our Australian Signals Directorate making sure that they're commemorating IDABIT Day. Apparently, there's some other days that on the LGBT calendar. Was it Coming Out Day? There's also Wear It Purple Day. There's so many days, and to commemorate the day, IKEA said they were going to roll out new parking sign across that saw in support of the LGBT plus community. The homeware giant will begin labelling its family-friendly parking spaces according to gender, such as family gender, mixed family with pram gender, family with pram gender man. IKEA Australia's Equality, Diversity and Inclusion leader, Alice Young, said the signage is a globalist initiative offering a non-heteronormative option. The new family icons simply represent a more inclusive and diverse representation of what a family looks like in Australia. Miss Young said, "We want people to feel safe, comfortable and accepted in IKEA. The measures are part of Progress is Made campaign." So I know, obviously we all know of disabled parking spots, and then they have the family ones, like for mothers with prams, or should I say parents with prams there. So apparently LGBT people need special parking places as well there. Also in the lead up to IDABIT Day, we had the ABC, if I go up here, talk about the Queensland youngest drag queen called Candy Featherbottom, a completely inappropriate name. He's 13 years old and apparently started doing drag when he was 10 there. And this really shocked people that this child drag phenomena is now being promoted down under and by our ABC here, because obviously we've seen over in the US, Desmond the Amazing, that poor child drag queen who, well, his parents allowed him to hang out with convicted murderer Michael Alag, who thankfully last year died of a drug overdose. Obviously, Desmond was hanging out after Michael was released from prison. He didn't just murder somebody, but chopped up their body and threw it in a river. And so, yes, this whole article, basically, to summarize it, is they dress it up as an inspiring story of acceptance and fun here. the other prominent child drag queen in the United States is Lactasia. Now, Lactasia is more, I would say, confident than Desmond the Amazing, who just looks quite uncomfortable. And obviously the mainstream media in the US has glowingly done pieces about them. And then, of course, you have the drag queen story hour at the local library, which has come to Australia. There's one in Melbourne called Antidepressant, a completely inappropriate name. Well, as I can see here, it's already ticked over the half-hour mark. So that was, an incredibly fast show. But this is a short, fast news burst. Now, last week we had the federal budget. Tomorrow we have the Victorian government state budget to look forward to, and it's shaping up to be, well, a budget of horror. If I just bring up briefly here a summary of it here. Now, this is the headline the Herald Sun have. Victorians to be slugged $2.7 billion in extra taxes, fees as Andrews government targets property owners. Landowners and home buyers will be slugged billions of dollars in extra taxes in it's on Thursday, not tomorrow, state budget to be Victoria's soaring deficit after COVID-19 economic carnage. The cost of paying core traffic fines will also be jacked up by 10%, about $20 for the lowest grade speeding offence there. And the budget is being delivered by, as you can see here, Tim Pallas, the Treasurer, otherwise known as Uncle Fester, because you can see him there, he's an Uncle Fester lookalike there. Now, the reason why while the federal budget was basically everyone's a winner, while this one to pay for all the extra expenditure and the soaring debt, extra new taxes are being put on. Well, that's what socialist Labor governments do, jack up taxes. But they are somewhat trying to be fiscally responsible, not have a massive deficit like the Morrison government is. Well, that's because the Victorian government doesn't have the ability to print more money like the Commonwealth government does with the Reserve Bank there. And obviously with the federal government tearing up the Belt and Road agreement that Dan Andrews had with the Chinese Communist Party, there's no more China money coming in. So well, they've got to get the money from somewhere, and they're going to hike up stamp duty and land tax. That's what they're going to do. And obviously, last week, Victoria survived a COVID scare because there was a COVID case out in the community. A returned traveller who contracted it while staying in South Australian COVID quarantine. Thankfully, no one else tested positive, which meant that there was no change in restriction levels. So all those people who said that they had a reliable source saying on good authority that Victoria would be entering a snap lockdown last Friday night in time to cancel the Freedom Day protests were obviously wrong there. But obviously this is the crux of the current political debate. How long is Australia's zero COVID tolerance going to last with the rest of the world opening up? But that's for another program. Thank you so much for watching Tim's News Explosion. I'll see you next Monday for another news explosion. See you on Wednesday for Brawl in the Brain with Jared Seaby, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time on the Unshackled's YouTube channel. And then on Thursday for a Wilms Front feature with Mark Collette. And there'll be no Trad Tasman talk this Friday, but there'll still be another Hard Knocks with Jared Seaby, who's having Dennis the Russian back now. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you back on Wednesday and see you next Monday. Tim's News Explosion. 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 Tim's News Explosion.